Hi everyone, welcome to today's episode. It's Jacinta here, letting you know that today's episode is the recording of the Cosmic Savannah live show that we did at the Cape Town International Convention Centre a couple of weeks ago as part of the IAU, the International Astronomical Union's General Assembly, which was a massive event. The live show was so much fun and we're very excited to bring it to you now. So you can listen to this episode as audio only on this podcast, or you can head to our website, to the show notes to this episode, where we'll have the link to the YouTube video where you can watch it live with the video as well. And it was a really cool show. So I do actually hope that you go and watch it on YouTube. We had a live marimba band. You can hear them playing in the background. You can hear the crowd. Other than that, the audio quality is not great, but hopefully you'll enjoy it anyway. Our guests for the show were Dr. Nicole Thomas, who is a Jim Buckey Fellow in Western Australia, and Professor Brian Schmidt, who won the Nobel Prize in Physics for discovering the accelerating expansion of the universe. So we hope you enjoy this episode with the very special guests. We'll speak to you again in about a fortnight when we release another normal episode of the Cosmic Savannah. Bye for now.
Welcome to the Cosmic Savannah with Dr. Daniel Kahneman,
Dr. Jacinta Delhaize,
and Dr. Tsiamiso Makwela.
It is
Sorry, Jacob. Each episode will be giving you behind-the-scenes look at world-class astronomy and astrophysics happening under the African skies.
Let us introduce you to the people involved, the technology we use, the exciting work we do, and the fascinating discoveries we make.
So sit back and relax as we take you on a safari through the skies.
Welcome to our very first live show.
Yeah!
Thanks all for being here. It's great to see you. And as you can tell, we normally do edit, so we've already made a few mistakes.
And after 5 years, we still don't know our intro after every episode. Yes, we're very excited to be here, etc., etc. Oh, I'm not meant to read that. No, hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us in person. And also hello to the people who are joining live online. Hi, Mom. She's in Australia, but I know she's already woken up in the middle of the night to watch. Yeah.
And thank you again for being here today. But most importantly, we have some brilliant guests lined up for you. So please sit back and relax.
Firstly, a quick thanks to the Rainbow Sounds Marimba Ensemble who have been entertaining you. The claps you guys were getting before we walked in made me worried about. Just let them play.
And also a credit to the astrophotographers who are Yannick Alheit, Kyle Gosh, and also my uncle Manu Delhaize. They're responsible for the beautiful photos up there. So 2 of those were from taken in Sutherland here in South Africa, and some of them were taken in Canberra, Australia, from my uncle's backyard, which is where one of our guests for tonight is actually from. So we're all under one sky.
Thank you.
Before we go any further, some of you might not know us and some of you might. So I am Dr. Tsiamiso Makwela. I'm a research scientist and an astronomy education researcher at the IAU Office of Astronomy for Education and the University of Cape Town.
I'm Dr. Daniel Kahneman. I am the Science Engagement Astronomer at the South African Astronomical Observatory here in Cape Town.
And I'm Jacinta Delhaize, and I'm a lecturer at the University of Cape Town. Is that all I am? Yeah, that's all I am. Hi to my third years as well. Originally from Australia, as you can hear from my accent, but I'm now a permanent resident here, so
Woo,
yeah.
Perhaps I should also mention why we are all here. So over the last 2 weeks, it's been 2 weeks, right? Over 2,000 astronomers across the globe have been here with us in Cape Town, joining us for the Astronomical Union General Assembly.
Yeah, so the International Astronomical Union is an international body of astronomers, professional astronomers, over 12,000 astronomers from around the world, and every 3 years they get together for a big General Assembly. And we are here in Cape Town for that General Assembly for the first time in Africa, in the IAU's history.
Sorry, Jacob.
Edit that out, Jacob.
You are all here because really you want to see us, but there's also some special guests that are lined up for today. And so before we take any more time, we would like to first bring up our homegrown Cape Townian, Dr. Nicole Thomas, to come up. Woo! Did I say that you could?
Yes.
Great.
Sorry. So tonight's first guest, Dr. Nicole Thomas, has joined us on the podcast way back in episode 9, almost 5 years ago, and episode 14, actually. She's and since then, Nicole has grown in leaps and bounds and traveled the world, and is currently the Jim Buckey Fellow in Astrophysics at the University of Western Australia, a node of the International Centre for Radio Astronomy Research. Who's it?
Okay. So Nicole's research lies in understanding the mechanisms behind the growth of supermassive black holes and the role this plays in galaxy evolution. And so she's going to be explaining that to us tonight.
Yeah, maybe I should also share a little bit more about Nicole. She actually obtained her PhD right here in South Africa at the University of Western Cape in 2021. And she continued with her as a postdoctoral researcher at the Institute for Computational Cosmology and the Center of Extragalactic Astronomy at Durham University before arriving at UWA in 2024.
Thank you.
So, welcome, Nicole.
We promised, Nicole, we'll let you do some talking now.
Okay, thank you. No, thank you so much for that welcome. Thank you for having me. And 5 years of the Cosmic Savannah, congratulations. That's amazing as well. It's lovely to be here.
Yeah, welcome back.
Thank you.
Sure. So maybe we all want to know what really sparked your interest in astronomy and really tell us about your career path to where you are today.
Sort of the sparking of my interest in astronomy was basically led by really enjoying maths and physics when I was in school. So being able to, explain physical phenomenon using mathematics was crazy to me. I thought it was an amazing way to do things, and which also sparked my interest in using simulation specifically. So I did as you mentioned, my undergraduate degree at the University of the Western Cape, then moving on to the National Astrophysics and Space Science program, which if there are any undergraduates in the audience at the moment, this is an amazing astronomy program in South Africa, which aims to train the next generation of astronomers. So I did the National Astrophysics and Space Science program for my honors and masters, and then continuing on to do a PhD using cosmological simulations to understand galaxy evolution before moving on to Durham University, and now being based at the International Centre for Radio Astronomy Research in Perth, Australia. It's been a crazy ride, but it's been a fantastic opportunity and a fantastic experience.
Nice.
That's brilliant. I'm also actually a graduate of the NAS program, and I can absolutely say, the NAS just celebrated its 20-year anniversary and has had over 400 graduates come through, and it's really grown astronomy in South Africa and Africa, and now spreading out across the world. So really, really proud of you, and yeah. And your fellowship is very prestigious, and your work is really quite amazing these days. I worked in a very similar field back when I was at UWC myself, and you gave an invited talk this morning at the conference. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And on a very aptly named, because we like to keep an African and wildlife theme in this Cosmic Savannah, your computer simulation is called Simba. Can you tell us a little bit about them?
Right, so SIMBA is a cosmological hydrodynamic simulation. And what this essentially means is that you can, in a computer simulation, put in the equations that we think govern the way that the universe works and how galaxies evolve over many millions to billions of years. And what this entails is essentially putting in the equations for different physical not just mechanisms, but physical processes that we understand, so things like gravity and so on. So it models particles in the form of representing gas, dust, and dark matter, for example, in the universe, putting the equations for those physical processes that we understand, but also some processes that, maybe we don't understand completely. And we put this into a computer and run this over many millions to billions of years. And what we hope by the end...
The simulation doesn't run for billions.
No. In computer time. So what we hope by the end of running these simulations is that we have a picture that looks like the universe as we observe it. And if it does, fantastic, great. That means that the physics that we've input into these simulations is somewhat representative of the real universe. If not, that means we have to go back to the drawing board and, try to reevaluate the equations that we've put into these simulations. So SIMBA is one of these cosmological simulations. And what I specifically do is try to understand how supermassive black holes impact the evolution of galaxies within these simulations.
So supermassive black holes are something which resides at the center of a galaxy.
That's my question, Dan.
We're going to let you get your question.
No, fine.
Go on. This happens.
It's fine.
Go on.
No, I don't want to anymore.
No, I just wanted to say, in terms of the simulations, you mentioned that you're simulating the universe as we see it now. What does that look like? I mean, how accurately are we doing this? Are we making galaxies? Are we making stars? We see a universe around us, but maybe for our guests here, what does this really look like in terms of how well we can simulate the universe?
So that's a difficult question. But essentially what we hope is that we have some sort of representative understanding of how different physics takes place within galaxies. So what we hope at the end is that we have some sort of image of a galaxy population that looks like what we see observationally. So that means being able to reproduce how the population of stellar components, black hole components, gas, dust, all the different things that we do see in the real universe, whether we're able to actually reproduce those things as well. So that's the hope. Sometimes this works or goes according to plan, sometimes not, but it is a very large task of going back and being able to just relook at things and try to essentially tune the knobs onto what we think the real universe should look like.
All right, so Nicole, you study in these simulations galaxies that are a particular type of galaxies, which we call AGN. It stands for active galactic nucleus. Just explain to our listeners and our audience, what is an AGN and why do we care about it?
Right. So as Daniel mentioned, at the center of essentially every galaxy, there is a supermassive black hole. Some of these are very relaxed, similar to the supermassive black hole that's at the center of our own Milky Way galaxy. They're not doing too much. Some black holes, on the other hand, grow very quickly. So this means they feed on gas and dust and all sorts of things that are very nearby to them. And when this happens, they can also heat up its surroundings and emit a lot of energy. And these are the things that we typically call active galactic nuclei, because they can emit so much energy that they outshine their own galaxy that they live in. And while this maybe doesn't sound as amazing as what it actually is, the fact that a supermassive black hole is so much smaller in physical size compared to the host galaxy that it lives in, this is an amazing amount of energy that something so small is able to produce on such massive scales. So these are what we typically refer to as active galactic nuclei, just these very high energy sources within the center of these galaxies.
And then you said that your particular work is about kind of comparing them to observations as well. So in astronomy, there's generally two types of astronomers, although we've got lots of people here who might disagree with that. So I have to be careful what I say. But you've got kind of observational astronomers, and then you've got kind of, well, I guess traditionally we call them astrophysicists, the people who work with the simulations. Theoretical.
Yeah.
All right. And observational astronomers kind of go and take data with actual telescopes, whether it be radio telescopes, such as the Meerkat telescope, which is here in the Karoo, in South Africa, or optical telescopes such as the SALT telescope, which is also in South Africa, in Sutherland. It's the largest optical telescope in the Southern Hemisphere. And you collect that data, you collect light from space, which can come from galaxies at a whole range of different wavelengths, which is why you need these different types of telescopes. And then you kind of see what's going on in the universe. But in order to really understand the physics behind what's going on, in order to interpret that data, we need to compare it to our knowledge of physics and what we expect to happen. But just going from like our fundamental knowledge of physics, what do we expect to happen? That's kind of where Nicole's work comes in, because we look at a supercomputer, we throw in the physics that we understand, we see what comes out, and then we compare the observations and simulations and see, do the simulations reproduce the data? If yes, then great, we understand physics. If no, then, well, are our observations biased, or have we missed something in the simulations? And we go back and rinse and repeat. So tell me about the data that you are comparing to with the observations.
Right, so at the moment we are very fortunate to have the SKA that's been built within South Africa as well as in Western Australia. So we are really starting to probe the next generation of the radio astronomy community. So at the moment, we are comparing to the MIGHTY survey, which maybe Jacinta can tell you more about since she's the observer.
Oh, I'm so glad you asked.
But MIGHTY is really a very impressive radio astronomy survey that is really probing a new regime of radio sources that we've never seen before. So we are being able, for the first time, to really compare our simulations in this new regime of radio astronomy.
Yeah, so I guess MIGHTY, we're both part of the MIGHTY team, and it's a good name for it. It's a MIGHTY survey. It's you use the Meerkat telescope. The Meerkat telescope is really good because it's so sensitive, and so we can use this telescope to study galaxies in a way that we can detect things that are much more fainter than we previously could detect, and smaller. And so then we compare with your simulations. And what have you found so far?
So what we found so far is actually in contrast to a lot of previous observations. So when I say that MIGHTY is really probing a new regime of radio astronomy, it's kind of upsetting a lot of people, which has been very interesting to try to explain to a lot of astronomers. But we're finally able to do very direct comparisons between the simulations and the observations. So what this is really helpful for, as you mentioned before, is that, yes, we're now able to, tune our simulations and make better constraints on the physical processes that we understand and are trying to understand. But we're really probing a regime now when the full SKA array comes online, being able to make better interpretations of those observations as well.
Yeah. So I think Nicole has told us about her science, and I hope that Jacinta's not going to test her students on this.
Oh, by the way, as a present to you guys, no lecture tomorrow morning. That's not a joke. I'm sleeping in.
Yeah. So Nicole, please tell us where to from here in your career. So where do you see yourself in the next couple of years?
In the next couple of years? Well, firstly, I need a holiday.
Don't we all?
But in all seriousness, I'm very excited to have taken up this new position in Western Australia. Over the next couple of years, I do hope to really focus more on my research. But what my biggest goal for the next 3 to 5 years is to be able to have a model or a suite of simulations that I can, one, bring back to South Africa so that we can really optimize these observations to take advantage of the SKA that is being built here. And while I'm on the topic, if there are any researchers around, I would really love to get more South Africans involved in using cosmological simulations. So if you do feel like your research could benefit from whether it be comparing or using these simulations, I would love to have a conversation, whether you're a student or postdoc or at any research level, really. That would be fantastic.
Yes, myself and my grad students will be talking to you soon.
I'm still a recovering simulator. I don't know.
Yeah. Dan mentioned that he was also in simulations, but we were actually under the same supervisor. So
He must be here.
Ramil?
I don't think he's in the.
Unbelievable.
No,
We
he
have
has
to
better things to do.
So I've gone on to other things. But maybe I'll get back to simulations at
You're
some
very
point.
welcome.
Thank you. And thank you so much for joining us again, Nicole.
No, wait, I have more questions. Wait, I have another question, sorry.
I have a question for you. What does MARTI stand for?
That was so mean. It stands for the Meerkat International Gigahertz Tiered Extragalactic Exploration.
Okay, well
Beautiful.
done. There we go.
I practiced that. Thank you. I don't know why I get a round of applause. But Nicole, so you're now at ICRA in Western Australia.
Yes.
So this is actually where I did my PhD. I'm born and raised in Western Australia, and now you're across there. And of course, it's the other site of the SKA telescope, one SKA telescope there, one SKA telescope here. So we've kind of swapped cities. How are you finding Perth in Australia?
Annoyingly, I really like it.
Wrong answer.
No, I was in the UK before I moved to Western Australia, which was, so I don't want to say it was an upgrade, but it's really nice to be in the sun, be near the beach. It's been lovely, and the department has been incredibly supportive. I have a amazing group of collaborators there, so I do not have too many complaints so far.
Wonderful. That's good to hear. They're in the audience, so you kind of had to say that. But And final question, how has your experience been kind of being a Cape Townian, then moving to two different countries and continents, in fact? How have you found that experience?
I'm actually so happy you asked this question, because I've been somewhat reflecting over the General Assembly over the last few days, and what's been, being able to move and work in all these different places have been an amazing experience. It's not for the lighthearted, being able to move so often. But what I really started to appreciate is, for one, and in this room online, I have such a fantastic support network across all these different places that I have lived. So I'm very fortunate to be able to say that I've had people, backing me in a both professional and personal point of view. So for those that are here, thank you. I really appreciate it. We do so easily forget that we are people before we are astronomers. So I would really love to acknowledge the support that I have received over the last few days, just people egging me on, telling me like it's all fine. That sort of support has been absolutely vital in, progressing my career. So it's been fantastic in that regard. I'm very happy to say that I've made it through mostly due to just having an amazing support network. And I highly recommend that for those that are coming through the ranks at the moment, surround yourself by people that support your professional and personal goals is invaluable.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Nicole, for joining us.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it. And, we are a fan of you. Your podcast.
We're looking
Big
forward
fan.
to following your career.
Thank you.
And have you
And
again.
again, 5 years of Cosmic Savannah. Congratulations. That's also
you.
amazing.
Hopefully not another 5 years before we have you back.
Yeah, I'll catch up in a few years.
Okay, final round of applause for Nicole.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nicole.
And I'm going to have to stand for this one.
Oh,
Okay, I'm going to stand too.
Are we all standing?
Are we all standing?
Yeah, I'll stand.
You can sit. You can chill.
my card?
Next up, we have another very special guest who is currently a distinguished professor at the Australian National University in Canberra, Australia, and it is best known for sharing the 2011 Nobel Prize in Physics with Sal Perlmutter and Adam Riess for their discovery of the accelerating expansion of the universe through observations of the distant supernova.
Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Professor Brian Schmidt. Oh, sorry, how good is the marimba band? Okay. Wow.
I've done many things, but I have never had live walk-on music.
There you go. We gave Brian Schmidt a first.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, that leads us into my very first question. Welcome, Brian. Welcome to the Cosmic Savannah. Now, as you heard, Nicole has done this all before, but this is your first time on the Cosmic Savannah. So would you consider this a highlight of your career so far?
Indeed. A great highlight. Of course, I've had a chance to see Cosmic Savannah from Australia and watch it evolve over the last 5 years. So it's not completely the first time for me.
Oh.
I've interacted with it in its purest form, the digital form.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank
You can follow
you.
us online.
Yes. And Brian's going to share a tweet from this, aren't you, Brian?
Me and Elon are not getting along so well.
Okay. Instagram then.
And so, Brian, is this your first time in South Africa?
No, I've been here. I was here many times from about 1999 till about 2010. So I think this is probably roughly my 5th time in Cape Town. So I've had a good chance to interact with bits and pieces of it over the time, but it's the first time I've been here in about 15 years, and the first time I've been here since winning the Nobel Prize. So.
Oh, nice. And also, you're not just here for anything, you're also here for the IAU General Assembly. And so have you enjoyed that so far? How's your experience been?
Yeah, so the IAU General Assemblies bring together people from, hundreds of countries, and being able to, in one place, get a catch up of what's going on scientifically around the world, and the science that's going on around the world is very varied. So it's quite different than your normal conference. You really meet just a highly varied group of people, from people who were my undergraduate supervisors are here, to people I've met for the first time and will probably work with, perhaps for the rest of my life. So it's a really place that really brings things together. So it's been really exciting, and Cape Town, of course, is an amazing place, even in your winter, which is my winter as well, so I don't mind. But
Sorry about that.
I like winter. I'm from Alaska, so it's beautiful.
It's definitely the African flavor.
Yeah, the sky's leaking a bit, but it's better than the opposite in Cape Town anyway. So, Brian, you and I go way back. Don't we, Bri?
We do.
So I knew Brian before he was famous. He told me I could say that.
And he knows you before you are.
Yeah. Hey. So I did my PhD in Australia, and where Brian was a professor at the Mount Stromlo Observatory at the Australian National University, and then, of course, he went on to win the Nobel Prize in Physics in 2011. And then the next year was Brian's first year at the Lindau meeting of Nobel laureates, which happens every year, and it's cycles between which kind of prize it's about. So this was the science Lindau meeting happened to be the year after Brian won, so that was his first year. And in celebration of that, there was a delegation of astronomy students could go, and so there's about 500 students from all around the world, and I don't know, there was maybe like 20 Nobel laureates or something along those lines there, and I got to meet Brian there, and you remember those days, don't you, Brian?
I do. It was a big deal. It was the first time I had ever met so many Nobel Prize winners, and they were an interesting group of people, including many of your heroes. And you do learn sometimes it's not good to meet your heroes, as I found out. But yeah, right, that was a great time.
So winning the Nobel Prize is obviously a monumental achievement. Can you take us back to the time when you first learned that you and your team have won the prize for discovering the accelerating expansion of the universe? How did that feel?
Okay, well, it kind of comes out of the blue. So, there's a lot of people who talk about people winning the Nobel Prize, but it doesn't happen to many people, and it's kind of a lightning bolt when it comes out. So in my case, on the 4th of October, 2011, at 8:39 p.m. local time in Canberra. We had sports night with my two boys out, and we were cooking a green Thai curry, and the phone rang, and my wife answered it. She looked puzzled and handed it to me, and you literally get someone saying, hello, is this Brian Schmidt? Yes. And they're like, are you sure? This is a very important call from Sweden. I'm like, what is going on? I think I thought it was one of my PhD students playing a practical joke on me. And then they tell you win a Nobel Prize. And we're going to be telling the world about this in 6 minutes. And
6 minutes.
yeah, it was 8:45 was when it was announced.
And if you don't answer, do they still announce it?
Yes, they do. Although that was the year someone died before they announced it.
Oh, no.
And the very thing. So they were a little
So were you
touchy.
second prize? Or?
No, but it was quite interesting. They hadn't been able to get hold of Saul Perlmutter, and they're like, "Do you have his mobile phone number?" And I'm like, "I do." Okay.
What, now I've got to share?
Yeah. Well, so yeah,
said
it's
that.
kind of surreal, and it does happen, and it's amazing to be part of. But ultimately, I think we need to think of it as a celebration of science, less of individuals. But it is. Unfortunately, it's very focused on individuals, even though the science in that case was 60 people. So it was a lot of people working on it.
Well, maybe you can tell us a little bit about the science. I mean, what made it so significant? What is the importance of the discovery?
All right. So when we look out at the universe, it's been known since the time of the 1920s that the universe is expanding. That is, everything in the universe is moving away from everything else. Okay, so that's great. Now, it turns out one of the interesting things, and this comes to your simulations, which is that when we look back out at more and more distant things, we're looking back at time. And so you get kind of this scrambled look at the universe where you keep seeing things, but the fainter things are, typically the further away they are. So the simulations kind of help us piece together time when we look at this onion skin of things getting older and older as we look back in time. But that allows us to do something really interesting in my field, which is to measure how fast the universe is moving apart. That's how fast it's expanding. And then look at more distant objects, make the same measurement, and compare. And what we were expecting is that the universe is full of gravity, and we would expect that the expansion rate of the universe would slow down over time. Gravity would pull everything and slow it down. And the question was, would it slow down a little bit, or would it slow down a lot? If the universe was slowing down a lot, then it might sometime in the future stop and go in reverse, and we'd have the Gnab-Gib, which is the Big Bang in reverse. So that's what
You've done that before.
So for me, it was a chance due to technology and some amazing work done in Chile on supernovae that allowed us to go through and do this experiment, which had been known from the time of Einstein. But it was the technology of today that allowed us to do that. And so we measured how fast the universe was slowing down, but it wasn't slowing down at all. It was actually speeding up. And that was the big surprise. Gravity was pushing rather than pulling.
Sure. That is so interesting.
How did you? How?
But like,
When was the day?
How did you-
Who plotted it?
how did you know that it was real and
Well,
had made a
okay, so
mistake?
you don't. So in my case, Adam Rees, also a winner, was a postdoc at the time, and he was leading sort of the next trench of objects. And one day in November of 1997, he just sent me a plot and said, what do you think of this? And it basically showed the accelerating universe. And I called him up and said, I think we've got a lot of work to do because we've made a mistake, some horrible mistakes.
Yeah.
So over the next 6 weeks, he and I worked kind of through every single step ourselves. And then we had to, of course, share with the rest of the team. And then we had to work through a whole bunch of other new steps again. And so you don't have a eureka moment. At least I didn't. I was more of a going through the known unknowns, so to speak, and knocking them off one by one. But at the end, you're like, oh, we got to publish this, but you're always worried about the unknown unknowns, the things that you haven't thought of, no one has thought of, and you're just worried they're going to come back to bite you. And so even when we published, I was worried about the unknown unknowns. So it really took a few years until we got really good confirmation from the cosmic microwave background, where I suddenly realized, actually, I think we're right. But that took a couple years.
Sure. And I guess that's one of the exciting things about the scientific process too, right? Like you never really, you share it as a community, and you want their input, and you want them to test it. And
well, it's very communal. Science are not individual little heroes. It's lots of people working in it. There are thousands of people who ultimately contributed to our prize-winning experiment, and that's something to be celebrated.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And this work on the accelerating universe has definitely reshaped our whole understanding of cosmology. So another question to you is, how do you see this field of cosmology, Nicole's field, evolving in the next decade?
It's hard to know. So the accelerating universe was a big surprise, and at the first order, it fixed a lot of outstanding issues. It made the universe have a not curved, so it made it so that the universe, as we would say, was flat. It doesn't bend. Space can be curved in general relativity, and this made it kind of balanced precariously between curved away from itself and curved onto itself. And that turns out, for reasons to understand the very early times after the Big Bang, that was something theorists really liked. It also made the universe about the right age. We had the problem where it looked like the universe might not be as old as the things in it, and that's not a good thing for cosmology. So it fixed a number of things like that. But it's been really, really hard to understand why there would be acceleration, except for saying that Einstein invented this little term, which he called lambda, in his equations. We call it the cosmological constant. And if that exists, it reproduces exactly what we see. And that's been pretty much true since 1998. There are some perhaps little chinks in that now, which is where I think the future lies. Are those discrepancies from just the simplest possible model posited in 1917 by Einstein, are those potentially real, or are they, kind of the splattered bugs on the windscreen, kind of a distraction from a clear view? And we'll figure that over the next 10 years. In the meantime, we do have SKA, James Webb Space Telescope. We have these amazing black hole discoveries. So there's all these things happening in cosmology where every day is a discovery. So we're doing that at the same time. So we can walk and chew gum at the same time. At least some people can. I'm sure I can.
So can you explain to our audience and our listeners a bit more about how does this relate to dark energy, and what is dark energy? Do we know yet what it means?
Yeah, so dark energy is the catch-all phrase to be whatever is accelerating the universe, whatever is making gravity push rather than pull. Now, it might be Einstein's very simple cosmological constant. And the cosmological constant you can think of as being energy that is spread perfectly smoothly. When I mean perfectly smoothly across the universe. And as the universe expands, it just gets created as the universe expands. And that is the stuff that you need, something like it, that's the stuff that Einstein's theory of general relativity makes gravity push rather than pull. But we're not sure Einstein's was correct. And so some of the other ideas, of which there are many thousands of papers of ideas about what dark energy might be other than the cosmological constant, that's the catch-all for all those other ideas, including Einstein's.
Mm-hmm. What do you think it is?
Honestly, I think it's probably some form of the cosmological constant would be my best guess, but I don't really know. And at some level, we forget as scientists, our job is not to believe, our job's to test and try things out. So at this point, just from a pure most likely candidate, cosmological constant, but I don't have a vested interest in it. I would love for it not to be the cosmological constant, because that would be a lot more interesting and allow us to, learn a lot more things about maybe how quantum mechanics and gravity come together in some interesting way.
And you mentioned, if I could jump in for a minute, you mentioned that at the same time we've got the SKA, we've got JWST and all of these things. And of course, the way that astronomy and science in general in the world is going now is moving much further away from individual people doing it to teams, including, for example, your team that worked on the Type 1a supernova. What do you see as the future of sort of collaboration in order to answer these big questions in terms of, South Africa, for example, is now collaborating with kind of the whole world for the SKA. How do you see this as important for the future?
So I think the giant collaborations we're doing are necessary to answer some of the big questions, but I'm not convinced they're sufficient for a healthy astronomy community. So I really like the fact that we can get together and we can, get a whole bunch of people on different continents, use different techniques and simulate the universe incredibly well, better than we could ever do in a single place. I like the fact we can have huge surveys on the square kilometer array, or many countries come together to build the square kilometer array. But I also think we need to make sure we keep avenues for small groups to go through and be creative, because revolutionary ideas still seem to bubble up, usually from fairly small groups. But then when you want to solve the revolution, then you tend to need the big groups to do that. So I think getting a healthy ecosystem where we all work together, and one of the great benefits of having these global collaborations is when you want to work on small things, you can pick the right person in the world to work with. It's not just the person sitting in the office next to you. You get to choose whoever in the world you want to work with, because we're all connected now. So that's one of the big benefits of these giant programs.
Just following on that, I just want to ask you this one question and answer honestly.
Okay, this sounds dangerous.
So what is it going to take to see an African Nobel Prize in physics?
Yeah, so the answer is it always takes the first one. There will always be a little bit of luck, because you got to be at the right place at the right time, right? Nobel Prizes do not go to the smartest person in the room very often. That's a very rare occurrence. It's normally someone doing good work somewhere who has chances upon a discovery in some way. So there's a lot of being at the right place at the right time. Certainly, that was what I was part of. And for Africa, I think what I see South Africa doing, which is investing in places where you have, as we would say, a comparative advantage. So astronomy, you have a comparative advantage. I looked on and saw how much influence Africa had in COVID, in doing the evolution of the COVID vaccine. There's the actual COVID virus. And there are some huge advantages you have there as well, just due to the nature of Africa. So being able to invest in those things and really support them well, then at some point you will win a Nobel Prize. And it's just doing it, having the patience, doing great stuff. But the Nobel Prize is a symptom of doing good stuff. It's not why we're doing it. There's all these other great spillovers, as we would say, things that come from doing SKA and doing astronomy here that actually will help make, over a 25-year period, South Africa and Africa more prosperous. So it's really important to do for reasons. And if you do it, you get a better economy, you get better well-being, more health of your population, and occasionally you win a Nobel Prize. So it's kind of win-win, but you have to have patience. And, politicians often do not have patience. And it's been really impressive to see the patience that South African politicians have had to invest in astronomy and some other areas of science to be leading figures in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we're very, very lucky here in South Africa. I mean, we've said it many times before, but the investment that the government has made over the last 25 or 30 years has shown. I mean, we have the General Assembly here for the first time in Africa. We have hundreds of PhD graduates over the last 20 years who've come out of South Africa and Africa, and I think it's something we can really, really be proud of. You say, I mean, the Nobel Prize isn't the goal, and it shouldn't be. Good physics is the goal, and then the Nobel Prize may come at some point. But for young students who are here, who are watching online, do you have any advice on them? I mean, the first advice is don't aim to win a Nobel Prize, but a little bit of advice on how they should pursue their career.
Well, the advice is to, do astronomy because you love it, and know that astronomy trains you to do engineering, computing, math, artificial intelligence, all these things that turn out are useful no matter what you do, even if you decide not to be an astronomer. So go forth. If you love it, have confidence to do it. And I should say, we've got facilities in this country and people in this country who are perfectly capable of winning the Nobel Prize. So that could happen. Someone could make a discovery tomorrow that will win the Nobel Prize already. We're, as a country, South Africa is already positioned to allow that to happen in astronomy and a few other fields. So, I think it's great. That would not have been true 20 years ago. It's true now. So, it's great. But for the young people, just have confidence to go out and do something that's hard, that you enjoy, because one way or another, that's going to lead to opportunities, whether it be doing astronomy or, if you decide you want to use your brains to do high frequency trading on the stock market and steal other people's money, that's fine too.
But I mean, I don't think it's going to happen tomorrow, because I think after this, everyone's taking the day off after the General Assembly. But maybe next week we'll.
So, Brian, how has your life changed since you got the Nobel Prize? Obviously, it can have a big impact on your career and your life. And I know that you sort of recently, since the last time I saw you, were Vice Chancellor of the Australian National University. How was that? What does a Vice Chancellor actually do?
Well,
is yours?
Running a university, you herd 4,000 staff members and try to keep 25,000 students happy. And as you've seen here in Cape Town, it's a very challenging job, as I've known many of your vice chancellors. And as I always tell people, be nice to your vice chancellors. It's a really hard job. So, winning a Nobel Prize, it's kind of weird. It's really, really interesting. It doesn't make you happy. It makes your life interesting, but it comes with a lot of opportunities and responsibilities. So it kind of upends your world. I kind of described it at some level. It's like me going and saying, I like chocolate, and then suddenly a dump truck with 10 tons of chocolate dumps it on top of me, and you kind of get crushed by all the opportunities. So it's a little like that. So I think you have to, in my case, I knew I was just going to have to do some new things and make the most of the opportunities, but that meant giving up some things I really enjoyed doing because they were not practical for a few years. And so after running a university for 8 years as vice chancellor, I'm now back to doing astronomy again, and I love it. But I'm really glad I was vice chancellor, but I'm also really glad I'm no longer vice chancellor.
So what are you doing now?
So I am back to being a professor at ANU, and I have taken sort of several months off, and I will be going back to my love of supernovae and trying to understand how all the atoms that make up the Earth and the world, the universe, came to be the way they are. We were started with hydrogen and helium, a little bit of lithium. Now we're these very complex places that have everything up to uranium, and trying to understand exactly how that came through supernovae and other massive stars is something that I wanted to do when I was doing my PhD thesis. And right now it looks to me like it's a great time to go back and do that, given the modern technology.
Sounds very exciting. We'll be looking out for those papers. Sort of one of our last questions before we go is that obviously we know that you've been very successful in your career, but success doesn't come without failure. Would you care to share, have you ever failed, Brian?
Well, I mean, I guess, I've been asked this all the time, and I fail. So I always tell people to fail quickly. Okay. I fail every day. I just try to move on quickly. But so what have I done? I mean, you make the best out of a bad situation. So I was a French horn player, and I worked really, really hard at playing the French horn, and I was okay, but you do not know how many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, thousands of hours I played the French horn. And the reality is, I was okay. At some point you have to realize you're just not going to be a great French horn player. And so I'm not sure I failed at it, but I did not excel. And so life is like that. But I do encourage people to, before they actually fall off the cliff, to go through and maybe change directions before they completely fail, and accept the fact that you fail in different ways every day. So, yeah.
I have one more question for you. Do you have to be the best at something to succeed at something?
No, and I guess one of the gifts that I had is I was not the best student in high school. Up in the middle of Alaska, I had two friends, my best friends, who were both better students than me. Now, it turns out those two were exceptional students, like still two of the smartest people I've ever met. I didn't know that, but that, just knowing I was never going to be the best at something, always made me just keep plugging away and enjoy how I could contribute. And no, you don't worry about being the best. That's not something you control. You can be the best you can be. That you can control. And so always work to be the best you can be and don't worry about everyone else.
Do you ever experience imposter syndrome?
All the time.
Really?
Yeah. I mean,
And not
call
just
me
with
up for the
French
Nobel
horn.
Prize. There must be some horrible mistake. It's just like, this is not right. So no, I feel that all the time, because there are people who do not feel imposter syndrome, some of whom are pretty normal, some of whom are not. And but most of us do have self-confidence issues where things are hard, you feel in over your head, and I've had that my entire life, and I think I will. I'm having it right now, trying to get back in to do research, and just realizing, wow, this is all really, really hard. Am I going to be able to do it? Am I going to make myself into an idiot by not being able to do it? Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much for sharing that, Brian.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah. And thank you very much for joining us. Another thing I know you do, and I don't know if you fail or not, is make your own wine.
I did fail one video.
Just once. And we won't get into an argument over wine, but we did get you a very nice South African bottle, which we hope you'll enjoy.
Okay, thank you.
And yeah, thank you very much again for joining us.
Thank you.
I knew that was going to happen.
And that brings us to the end of today's show. Thank you very much to our live audience tonight, and for those watching online. And if you're listening to this as a podcast episode, thank you too. We hope you'll join us for more episodes of the Cosmic Savannah.
So special thanks today to Dr. Nicole Thomas and Professor Brian Schmidt for speaking with us. We have some gifts for you that are somewhere that are coming up to the stage. You get the
They are bringing the gift. Are we getting the gift?
There you go.
Thank you. You can hand it over.
That one cool. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Do what Brad says.
Sorry.
We'll get together.
Okay.
Oh, okay,
Perhaps
there's
taking
more.
photos.
Okay, sorry. Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
We'd also like to give a huge thank you to our behind the scenes team. So please, can they come on stage for a round of applause when we call your name? First of all, our podcast manager, Francois Camphor, who never complains, even though we ask the most ridiculous things of him. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Francois.
We have a gift for you as well. Yes,
Yes, Francois.
We didn't even ask you to buy it. Thank you, Francois.
Thanks, Francois.
Next up, our social media manager, Sumari Hatting, who's been volunteering with us for almost 4 years. She even flew all the way from Johannesburg to be with us tonight. Thank you, Sumari.
Thank you. Another. Oh, sorry.
Who was that?
Jay. It says Jay.
Because you read mine.
Okay, sorry.
Another particular shout out to our hardworking, long-suffering audio editor, Jacob. Jacob Fine, who is unfortunately unable to join us today, but will be listening to this audio as he will be editing it for us. Sorry, Jacob.
Thanks also to Mark Olnut for music production and Michal Werchek for photography, and also to Susie Karras for graphic design.
Next up, we'd like to thank a couple of my interns, Abigail Thamaran for her transcription, Shaman Duman for website management, Brian Masamola for his photography, Emil Mankis for video creation.
You can come on stage if you're here.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Nice, Shaman.
I'm glad you could be here.
And we'd also like to introduce our newest official team members, podcast assistant manager Karabo Rantwane, digital presence assistant Kashifa Saluji, and transcription and content assistant Sisa Shibane. Where are they? Come on stage, please.
Thank you. Nice, thank you.
Some of us are meeting for the first time tonight. Thank you. Okay.
And an enormous thanks to all our many other volunteers, past, present, who have supported the Cosmic Savannah over the past few years. Many of them are here today, and we invite them all to come up to stage for now for a round of applause.
Is there anyone here? Oh, they're here. They're just shy.
Rika!
Come on. Anyone who made our mini episodes? Come on. I know you're here. Yeah. Come on, Rika.
We'd also like to thank the CCICC staff, the AV folks up there, and the sound guys who've done a fab job. Thank you very much. And of course, the Rainbow Sounds Marimba Ensemble.
We gratefully acknowledge support from the South African National Research Foundation and the Square Kilometre Array Observatory, who have co-sponsored the show tonight. Also to the South African Agency for Science and Technology Advancement, the South African Astronomical Observatory, and the University of Cape Town Astronomy Department for sponsoring the podcast.
You can subscribe.
Give a round of applause.
Sorry, Jacob. You can subscribe to the Cosmic Savannah podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also listen to our website. You can also listen via our website on the on the cosmicsavannah.com and follow us on X, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Cosmic Savannah. It's yours. It's yours. I'm gonna go. Okay. Sorry. And we'll speak to you next time. And we'll speak to you next time on the Cosmic Savannah. Yay! Okay, he wants a photo. Yeah. Oh, perfect.
You're gonna have to squeeze. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Take this back to Australia with me. Well, I'm going to that.